Firstly, I'd like to say thanks so much. It's great to see so many people here, so thanks for coming. I don't know how many of you suffer from CFS-ME, but I do know that if you do, it's a big deal to come out any time after about 11 in the morning. So, you know, thank you to those of you who've put in the effort to come tonight. I thought I might just start quickly by telling everyone how I came to have CFS. I was about 16 when I had tonsillitis, and I had it about 3 times, and then I had glandular fever with it and was quite ill. I pinpoint that as the start of my illness, even though it wasn't until 10 years later that the symptoms of fatigue really set in. It's different for everyone. Some people say it came on really suddenly. For me, it was a really long sort of journey. I used to, when I'd get a cold, I'd get fatigued for a couple of weeks afterwards, until it got to the point where I'd have this fatigue 3 or 4 times a year. And then I was actually travelling overseas. I was in Israel and I had a bit of a throat thing, and then I couldn't do anything. All of a sudden, everything drained out of me, and I thought, okay, it's jet lag was my first thing, and I thought, okay, I'll keep moving on. I'll keep, you know, going and seeing things. I'll meet some new people. I'd just broken up with my boyfriend. I'd dealt with a friend who was going through a tough time when her partner died. So I had a lot of emotional things going on as well. And I thought, it's just this tough time. I'll push through and it'll be okay. And I went off to the Negev Desert in Israel and did some volunteer work. And my health picked up a little bit for a couple of weeks, and then it just started sliding again. And the people I was working with thought, oh, she's taking the mickey. She's come here for volunteer work, and she's just not working. She's sleeping all day, and here I was thinking, oh God, these people are going to think I'm a terrible person, and I've come here to do volunteer work. I need to do work. So I was getting up and really pushing myself. To the point one day I had a migraine and I felt like my head was just going to burst all over the place. So at that point they started to realise, as did I, that something was seriously wrong. And I stayed at this place for 2 months, and the people were amazing. I was very lucky to be surrounded by people who sort of was sympathetic, even though none of us really knew what was going on. And in the end I decided that it was time to call it quits and say, okay, I can't travel, I can't do this big trip that I dreamed of doing. I have to go home and find out what's wrong and get my mum to take care of me. I was just so drained that that's all I wanted at 26 years old, to go home and live with my parents. And, that's not something that I would have normally said, but that's what I needed to do. So I flew back to Australia. It was very difficult. I was very drained and I had to spend 40 hours travelling, and it was a horrible experience. And I got back and I moved in with my parents, and then it started. Naturopaths, Chinese doctors, normal doctors, I was going through the motions I was like, I'm going to figure this out, this isn't me. I get out there and I do things, and this is not who I am. This can't be happening to me, whatever it is. And it was, I'd got the diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome about 6 months after I first went to the doctor. Given that I'd had the problem with the tonsillitis and things, I was very fortunate to only have to wait 6 months. Some people go on for years without getting a diagnosis. So at least I kind of knew what it was, even though I didn't know what to do about it. So yeah, I went to all these different places trying to figure out what I could do to help myself. I moved around followed the sun to get some sunshine. I did all these things, but it took a long time to find something that worked. But during the first 12 months of my illness, I was lucky to come across Lee's forum, Not Crazy, and I made some great friends, and things really changed for me at that point, because I'd felt like I was alone and I didn't know anyone that had this. I hadn't known anyone in the past that had anything like this. and I came across Lee's forum, and there were all these people that knew exactly what I was talking about and exactly how I felt, and we could laugh about the silly things that we went through that no one else understood. And it really helped me. It didn't improve my health, but it improved my attitude and sort of lifted a bit of a weight off my shoulders. I knew that there was somewhere I could go when things were really tough, and someone was going to understand and say, it's going to be okay, you know, you'll get through this.